Hey guys, Ronin here. Welcome on back to the Retrocade. It is Saturday, and that means it's time for another Sports Saturday. As always, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. You can follow us on Twitter at @RRetrocade. Don't miss out on Sucker Punch Sunday tomorrow, where we will play a fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And as always, we have our ongoing Final Fantasy VI first-time playthrough for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. We post that twice a day, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But for today, I figured with the NCAA March Madness basketball tournament going on in nearby Indianapolis, we'd wind the clock back to 2000 and take a crack at it ourselves with the PlayStation 1 version of EA Sports NCAA March Madness 2000. Now, EA Sports, again, back in the day, was known for making some really, really good sports games. They have gotten far afield of that for a great many reasons in the last 5-6 years. But they were able to make college basketball games from 1998 to 2008, and officially announced that they were canceled around 2010, actually. And they made versions of it for the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. And what we're going to do today, over the course of the next half an hour or so, is we're going to go ahead and play a tournament game. And we're going to do a second round game, because I had played a first round game just to kind of get a feel for how this game works, because it's one I've never played. I have played a lot of games in my time, but college basketball games were ones that we never really got to when I was a kid. My brother, who was a huge sports nut, and that's where I learned how to play a lot of my sports games from, played a lot of NBA games, played a lot of baseball games, loved to play football games, and at some point we are going to play Madden and a couple of other ones. But we're playing as Boston College against number 13 Ohio State in the opening round in the Midwest bracket. And if you're unfamiliar with the Final Four, and if you live in the United States, there's no way you should be unfamiliar with this, but you have 64 teams that are playing to get to the end of the tournament in Indianapolis. And if you work in an office setting, if you work in pretty much any setting in the U.S. during this time of the year, you have heard guys and girls, this is not a gender exclusive thing, talking about their brackets. And have you filled your bracket out? And they're in a bracket pool. And how much do you stand to win if your bracket goes all the way? And what happens if your bracket gets busted? That is all because of this bracket you see before you. So we are playing as Boston College, and I'm a New England kid, and BC was always my school. And they came into as the number 4 seed. How they did that, I don't know. And we're playing number 13 Ohio State. But as you can see how the brackets break down, you have 16 teams in each bracket, and you go by highest ranking team versus lowest ranking team, and you just go from there. So you have St. Joe's versus Clemson is the 1 versus 16, for example, and we have a 4 versus 13. But one of the reasons why this series got discontinued in 2010 was the ongoing issue between college athletics and the idea that amateur athletes, being college students, should not get paid for what they do. And I worked in sports media for 15 years as a journalist, and I have been ringside for a lot of the arguments for and against this. I happen to be in the for argument. And part of the reason why you don't see any player names on this, you see the numbers and the positions, is that under the rules of amateur sports, as they are defined nowadays, and it's a pretty murky definition, I will tell you that, you could not have the names of the players attached to anything like this in a video game. And that also applies to memorabilia. It applies to a great swath of things that student athletes would, in theory, be compensated for. So before I get too far into this, I want to explain the controls to you a little bit. It's a pretty easy game to play along with. You have If you want to be able to pass the ball, you hit the X button. Shooting is your O button. Jumping is your triangle button. Stealing is your square button. And it's a lot like Double Dribble was. It's fast-paced. You want to be able to move the ball up the floor. You have fouls. You have free throws and things of that nature. But oh, that was a brick. One thing you'll notice that we don't have in this game is a shot clock. Because in college basketball, they didn't have a shot clock for a long time, or they have a 35-second shot clock like they do now. But back in the day, that meant that you could literally just hold the ball for as long as you wanted. Which is why in a lot of college basketball games, they're not high-scoring affairs. It's not uncommon to see a game be, 60 to 58, for example. Oh, nice pass down low. Little alley-oop. And unlike Double Dribble, which is the last basketball game we played, and that was a Nintendo game from 87, 88, so the graphics, as you can see, have come a long way since then. But as always with EA games way back in the day, this is what they capitalized on, was trying to give you the best and most accurate presentation of a game they could. So they were all about trying to capture the ambiance of college basketball, the atmosphere, the chanting, all that stuff. So we get to shoot a free throw here. And to shoot a free throw, you have to hold the button down and get as close to this circle as you can. That should go. And it should knock down the second one. All right, so we've doubled up Ohio State. We're up 8-4. And in college basketball, another difference between this and pro basketball is that you play halves. You don't play quarters.
Shoots for three. Shoots for three. It's good.
So at the end of 5 minutes, we'll end up playing the second half, which means this will be a pretty fast-paced game in theory. Long three. Drained it. I don't think you can take anything like a Steph Curry three in this game, but... Oh, nice turnaround dunk. You pull a 360 on that? He does. And comes back one-handed, throws it down. But this was always EA's bag back in the 90s and the early 2000s, was trying to give you a game that made you feel like you were playing the actual game. So you would get stuff like updated scores. There'd be a lot of things that they didn't have to put in the game, but it was really in line with what you were getting when you would watch it on TV. And yeah, they've kept some of those elements, or they've tried to, but it's honestly, EA games are a shell of what they used to be. For matters of being able to either lower the cost or ensuring that players will play online and making money that way. And I don't want to get on too much of a rant about it, but yeah, that's a big reason why for the last 7-8 years, I really haven't played any EA games. And I'm really not interested in playing any anytime soon either. And I have people sit there and tell me, well, you're just you're just old and bitter about it. And it's not that I'm old and bitter. It's that I remember what they used to be, and I don't understand how EA decided that what they're doing now is a better option for players who've been playing across generations now. I mean, they're literally on their third generation of players for most of their games. Man, we are getting blocked like flies here. Elbow jumper. Now, when I say the elbow jumper, where you see the red in the key there in that middle lane, and they're playing for last shot, I think. Nope. If you shoot it from the corner of that, that is called the elbow. Turn around, 3! Bagged it! Right at the buzzer. So our leading scorer is our power forward. He's got 6 points thanks to 2 field goals and 2 free throws. He's got a couple of rebounds and a foul. So we're up by 7 at the end of the first half. So we'll play the second half. But before we jump into that, there's another part of EA's history of covering sports games, which was really identified with the Madden games, Madden football, which is the Madden Curse. If you had whoever the athlete was on the cover for a given year of Madden, it was almost a guarantee that they were going to be injured, or they were going to have a terrible season, or they weren't going to play. Something bad was going to happen to them. For March Madness 2000, the cover athlete was Steve Francis, who went second overall in the NBA draft in 1999. And he had a good career. He played in Houston and a couple of different teams, but never really reached his potential as an NBA player. Ended up playing in China for a couple of years and was really big over there, but his was more of a case of what could have been. But to give you an idea of the athletes that made the cover for this game, you had Tim Duncan was the first one. He played for the San Antonio Spurs for a long time, won 5 championships, is a surefire Hall of Famer. And then you also have guys like Carmelo Anthony, who's still in the league nowadays. I think he's playing for the Portland Trailblazers right now. You did have a couple of busts who made the cover of this game. Adam Morrison, who was a shaggy-haired, ragamuffin-looking guy for Gonzaga up in Washington State. He was on the cover in 2007. He was drafted 3rd overall, and his career never really went anywhere. The last player to make the cover for NCAA basketball was Blake Griffin, who started with the Clippers. I think he went to Detroit, and now I think he's playing with the Brooklyn Nets. So they ended up discontinuing this series in 2010, like I said, because using the names and likenesses, and that involved their faces, their stats, all of that stuff constituted their likeness. You're giving them everything but their name, but they are this person. And it was threatening the NCAA's status of being an amateur sports league. And they decided they couldn't have that, which is why not only do you not see college basketball anymore, but there's no more college football games anymore. And I know EA talked about how they're going to be bringing that back, thanks to stuff that has been done in the last few years. But you're already seeing some schools that are opting out of that because they don't want to potentially get in trouble for letting their players be utilized in these sorts of games. And if you're not familiar with what it takes for the NCAA to say that a school is in violation of their amateur codes of conduct, to give you an idea, it can be a lot of things. The most obvious one is finding a way to pay athletes under the table, which is big time illegal. And that has been frowned upon forever. But it's also been going on for decades. And the NCAA doesn't like to talk about it, but it has. As we're on a 14-0 run here, and Ohio State's got to call a timeout. But in college basketball, I remember there was one story I heard out of Utah where the head coach of the Utah basketball team, Rick Majerus, who has since passed on, so I'm not talking out of school or anything. I also didn't go to Utah, but he had an athlete who suffered a death in his family. And to kind of help console the kid, Majerus took him out to lunch. And I am not making this up. The NCAA cited Utah for having a violation because Majerus took the kid out and had him get a bagel, I believe, with cream cheese and some extras on it. And the NCAA said, and I'm paraphrasing this, but as I understand it, if he had gotten the kid a plain bagel, they wouldn't have been in violation. But because the kid got cream cheese and extras on it, they were. That is how nitpicky they can be in terms of what amateur athletes are allowed and not allowed to do. And that's across the board. I mean, we're seeing that in women's sports, we're seeing that in all manner of college sports. But really, the two big ones where that gets brought up a lot are in college basketball and college football, because those are the money makers. They generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for the universities every year, and it also generates a ton of revenue for the TV networks who broadcast them. But because of that, the athletes themselves are told that they don't get to have a penny of it. Because in exchange for going to school and getting their education, they're essentially signing away their ability to be compensated for what they do on the field or on the court. Now, again, I'm providing nothing more than background and context on this. And I sure as heck don't have the answers to it. You know, if I did, I'd be in a lot higher pay grade, I'd like to think, that I am right now. Top of the key, 3-ball. Got it. But I think it's going to get to a point where college athletics is going to just end up being looked at for what it is, which is it is a proto-pro league. It's going to have to, unless something drastic changes. As I walk it out of bounds. But we are up by almost 20 with about 90 seconds to go. So I don't think this is going to be a loss for us, which is going to put us over 500. We got to 500 last week, thanks to our winning bases loaded. And now we will go to 3-2 in our Sports Saturday series, which I'm pretty happy about. But on the whole, I think I like how free-flowing this game is. They don't waste a lot of time with complex controls. It's easy to play. It's easy to follow. You can move the ball up floor. There is challenges to hitting shots. I will tell you, the first game I played, I knocked down way more threes than I had any right to. As we've hit the half-century mark, and we're up by 24 with about 30 seconds to go. Trying to get blocks and steals isn't necessarily that easy. But it looks like I could just sit outside and blast them back to the Stone Age. And we get the steal, and now we can play for the last shot because we've got 20 seconds to go. And again, it's a 35-second shot clock now, although we don't have one in this game. But I'm not going to do that. Where's the fun? See if I can hit a Steph Curry 3. Didn't, but we end up doubling up Ohio State, and we would move on to the tournament as the number 4 seed in our shooting guard finishes with 29 points. So we win 53-26 over Ohio State in what was a pretty fast-paced, easy game. You know, this wasn't any more complicated than Double Dribble was. A few little exceptions, but on the whole, for a game I haven't really played before, and a game that I wouldn't normally play, except during this time of the year, during March Madness, I would say it's not bad. So that, guys and gals, is NCAA March Madness 2000 for the PlayStation 1. If you like that, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Also, don't forget we have our Sucker Punch Sunday feature coming tomorrow, and we also have our Final Fantasy VI walkthrough that will kick into gear again on Monday. Again, we do 2 episodes a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I will get those posted as soon as I can. And we're at episode 30 on that now, and I'm thinking we've got I'm hoping maybe 10 episodes left. So we should get through the brunt of it next week, and then we will hopefully finish it up the week after. I've already got our next playthrough game set. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers on it. You'll just have to watch this space and find out information for more on that. So, as always, my name's Ronin. It's been fun having you for this Sports Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope to talk to you tomorrow for Sucker Punch Sunday. And if not, have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.